Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 47 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. You know, there are three big things that we feel can influence and keep you in debt the most. And if you want to get out of debt and stay out of debt, you need to know about these things and how they're going to influence your finances and influence your future. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, how's everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad, and welcome to today's show. And some super exciting news. Amber is in her newest digs. She is a proud new homeowner. Amber, how does it feel?
Honestly, it felt like home like the minute I walked through the door.
Yeah,
so
that's
good.
awesome. That means you were ready.
I was ready. I was nervous, but I was ready.
Yeah. So if you guys have listened to our show, Amber started her debt-free journey a little over 4 years ago. Can you believe it's been 4 years already?
I know, time flies.
It honestly feels like it was just yesterday. But they started 4 years ago and saved and paid off, what, well over 50 grand in about 20 months?
Yep.
And then built their large emergency fund savings. And then on top of that, saved up for a substantial down payment on a house. And all done within 4 years. So that's just huge proof that what we talk about in this show works and you can reach your financial goals. So huge congratulations to you, Amber. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So guys, today we're talking about the three big things that are going to keep you in debt the most. And I love teaching this. In fact, I include it in a lot of my live workshops and things that we do, any online classes or even in-person classes, because I think a lot of people tend to miss this, and these three big things can really influence you and keep you into debt. And the big three things we're going to list here today, the first one we're going to kick it off with was how you were raised. And I don't know about you guys, and for me, much of, at least for everybody else there, I mean, much of what you know about money really kind of comes from your childhood. And in fact, I've had people who've come to me and said, Brad, I'm broke because that's all I've ever been shown how to do. I've always struggled. We've always lived paycheck to paycheck, or my parents always had collectors calling, or they taught us that credit cards were a normal part of life, or whatever it might be. And they just don't know any other way, so they only do what they've been taught. And Ryan, I know, when we were kids, because Ryan and I are brothers, and one of the big conversations I can remember in our house when we were kids is all about the credit score. And, our parents taught us some of the other basic things, saving is important, investing is important, but they talked about it in theory or in general. They never really, at least from my remembrances, sitting down and showing us how to do this stuff. But I do remember the constant pounding of the head of the credit score. Do you have that same memory, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, to some degree I do. I do remember the credit score. For whatever reason, I visibly remember many times hearing it just never fails. No matter what I do, the second I pay this credit card off, something happens and we're right back in debt. I remember hearing that.
Yeah, I can almost hear mom saying that.
Yeah, and I don't remember, I don't remember them being extravagant. We didn't have tons and tons of things growing up, but I know they relied on credit, and I know that to them it was kind of just something you were never going to escape. And so that was a takeaway when I got older and moved out and got married. It was like, well, everybody has debt, because that's just what I heard.
Yep. It's also the same with cars too. Like it took me a while to be okay buying a used car, because our parents always said that buying a new car is the best way to go. So obviously, your parents, if you, depending on your relationship with your parents, obviously, but the people that you look up to, no matter if they're your biological parents or whoever it could be, but you trust them the most in a lot of cases. And it took me a long time to break down those big walls that they built, that buying a used car is okay. In fact, when I bought my first used car, I was freaked out about it, because I was just conditioned almost to think that new cars were the best way.
And see, and we grow up like way different. I don't think I can't remember ever having a new car.
Yeah, isn't that strange? It's so strange.
So my parents always had used cars, as far as I can remember. And For me, it was always, oh no, we can't do that. We're broke. That it was always, we're broke. I can't stand that phrase now. I'm like, please stop saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
The kids say it all the time. No, sorry, I can't. I'm broke. Like, no.
Yeah.
But that was me growing up, and it was just like, they did things when they had some money, but other than that, nope, we just don't do it, or nope, we don't get the extra, and we just had used cars.
So when you became an adult, did you have the scarcity kind of mindset that you were broke? Did you carry that mindset with you, or did you try to like, I'm not going to live that way?
I just spent my money, it was just always gone. So I always felt broke because the money was always gone. I don't know if I felt the scarcity, but the money was just always gone. Yeah. So I grew up in that mindset. And then as I got into adulthood, it was just, I'm broke. Yeah. I got debt. I got student loans. I'm just broke.
But I'm guessing as like, when it comes to the used car thing, you probably had no problem buying used cars though.
I've never had a brand new car, Brad.
Right. So, but for
me, it wasn't a big deal.
Right. So you've never had that to like break through that because that's how you're raised. So again, it matters like how you were raised and how you were, taught, or even your feelings about money. A lot of it comes from when you were a kid. And I think for a lot of people, it's really hard to break away from that, especially if you're still pretty close with that same family. In fact, we've had Roots members who have said that they've kind of broken away from their family, not in a relationship standpoint, but just in their money habits. And there's been some conversations in the family about it, right? Like, why would you do that? Why would you pay off your credit cards? Everyone's got a credit card. We talk about that a lot on the show, that whole idea or that myth out there. Or, in our case, Ryan, I mean, me and you, like, we've talked about that plenty of times. When I first said I wanted to get out of debt, you're like, the heck are you talking about, man? I mean, like, nobody does this stuff. Like, where are you getting this stuff from? So, I mean, I think it plays a critical role in your current financial mindset and in possibly your future mindset if you don't learn different methods and ways to think about and handle your money. It can really keep you stuck for a long period of time, I think.
And I think too, going back to what Amber said about that broke mindset, I mean, growing up, I don't recall a lot of times where we were broke, but I do remember, mom saying especially like, hey, one day we are going to have that really nice car. And one day we are going to have these things. And when we went to Disney, we always camped. And I remember going through like the big hotels there and being like, one day I'm going to stay here. And I think when I got older and I discovered I can pay $10 a month for that. Like, I'm not going to I want to take my kids. I want to go do that stuff, Yeah. So it was also like, not that we were deprived, but it was a feeling of like, I didn't get to do that as a kid and I want to give my kids that experience. So it was easy to go and spend that money to buy those things and have those experiences rather than put off. And again, that comes from a feeling of being raised and feeling like, yeah, like we didn't get to do that as a kid. Well, the reason we camped is because it was too expensive. But when I first started this and started going crazy with debt, I didn't care. It was $20 a month. That's all I cared about.
Yeah. Right. And do you think I think there's probably some challenging situations for kids who don't grow up necessarily in let's say a poor household or a household that's really struggling or is broke all the time, but maybe grows up in a middle-class household. And I know for a fact I did this, but I pretty much had matched my parents' lifestyle, the stuff that they had, the cars that they drove, the material possessions that were in their house by the time I was in my mid to late 20s. And here I am, I'm living the same exact life as my parents who are 30 years older than me, and I'm doing it all with debt. And I did that because that's what I learned as a kid. That's what I watched. That's what I saw. But I didn't see the 30 years that it took them to actually be able to get to the point where they could do that. But looking back and knowing what I know now, they did it the same way I did. They were doing it with debt. They were doing it with car payments, but I think for kids that get raised in households that probably aren't struggling as bad, I think there is probably some of that challenge too. When you get to be an adult, like, I want that same kind of comfortable life that I had. They don't want to go back to that life of scrimping and saving and not having any money and not having all the nice things, right? I think there is that challenge.
We're kind of going through this now with our son. He's 20. Not that we're looking to get rid of him immediately. He's still in college, but we're starting to have those conversations. And I think it's kind of some some very large eyeballs we're getting from him lately about, because we don't live in a fancy, super nice house, but it's nice. It's a nice house. It's decent. So when we start talking about apartments, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to get an apartment to get one right down the road here. So now we're like looking up rent and like, oh, this is how much that is. And he's like, what? Because exactly that. He's thinking he's going to live in the same area and the same, kind of have that same feeling and lifestyle that we've given him. And it's like, yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. Like you kind of got to start on the bottom and work your way up to that.
Yeah. Did you tell him, and I don't know if you want to share on the show, but did you tell him where you guys started out?
Yeah, I told you. He knows. Yeah, we our first place for the first year and a half, we bought a mobile home. We lived in a trailer park.
Right, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
And it was a great.
There's nothing wrong with that. I grew up in a trailer park.
Yeah, no, nothing.
But it was a great place, but it was kind of like the starter of that. We didn't buy an apartment. We didn't rent an apartment. We chose to do that.
Right.
And so that's just some of what we've been kind of walking through. So it's just interesting that you brought that up because we're walking through that with one of our kids right now, just trying to get him to see that being an adult comes with a whole lot of expenses that you don't really realize.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You won't be taking 30-minute showers in your place.
I love that. All right. The second one. So, how you were raised as a child is going to affect how you manage your finances, good or bad, in my opinion. I think it's going to play a critical role. Now, you can break away from that, which is good news, but you got to be aware that could be keeping you stuck, keeping you from having the success that you want. The second one is marketing and advertising, and we talk about this one quite a bit on this show, but at least I believe, and I think we all believe here on the show, that debt is the most successfully marketed product of all time. And debt pretty much started becoming somewhat normal, or let's say more accepted, back in the 1950s. And year after year since then, if you look at the statistics, I mean, debt has just steadily increased. And sometimes if you look in just the last 70 years, I mean, it's skyrocketed compared to where it used to be. And I mean, if you think about it, you literally can finance anything. In fact, I was just having a coaching call with individual who is part of a workshop that we did, and they are on these financing apps. I don't know the actual names of some of them that they were using, but you can use these apps and it'll give you like a quick payday where you can basically finance a purchase. And debt is just so readily available that it's so easy to get yourself into it, and you can literally buy anything that you want to buy.
There was I forget the exact number, but like the top 3 credit card companies, I think in 2018 or 19 spent, $6 or $7 billion on marketing. And it's just hard to wrap my head around that number. When you think about, if you're going to invest billions of dollars in marketing, think of why would I do that? Your return on investment has to be astronomical to want to spend that sort of money. I mean, think of how many ads or brochures or mailers you get every week from credit card companies, just credit industry in general, or furniture stores offering no financing. If I just saved it all for a year, it would probably blow your mind how much we're just inundated nonstop about payments. Yep.
And you're right. And it's just normalized. Like we were at family members and talking about how we got rid of our couch before we moved to the house, and we're going to have to go buy a new couch. And they're telling us all about this furniture store that's in town and how they have this great deal right now. And you could get 0% financing. And my husband just looked at them and was like, no, we're going to buy a couch cash. And it's like shock. And I'm like, we've been doing this for 4 years and you still are shocked. Right. By what we say. So it's ingrained in all of our heads that payments or 0% financing is the best way to go.
Yeah. We were shopping. This goes back 4 or 5 years ago, but we were shopping for a new phone for my wife, and we were at the checkout because we picked out the phone, and they're like, your monthly payment is going to be this amount. And even though, the phone companies, it's 0 interest and whatever, but I was like, no, we're going to pay for it in full. And she's like, well, well, nobody really does that. I'm like, well, I'm going to do it. So I was like, I need to know how I can pay for it in full. But that's a perfect example. I mean, this person deals with people purchasing these products, and she's saying that nobody really ever pays for their phone in full because we're just so conditioned to always have payments. And if you kind of think about the first one we told you, which is how you were raised, and if you combine that with this marketing now, it like solidifies those beliefs as like solid truth. It really does. Like, that's why so many people have a hard time actually wrapping their head around the idea of that, wow, I could actually live a life without payments. Most people have never been introduced to this information, or just kind of like, what are you like Ryan, what are you talking about? Right? Like, it's just not going to happen. That's just not how things work. Well, they can work that way. You just got to do some things differently. So, if you're first listening to this show, you might be thinking, who are these crazy people talking about that you can live debt free, right? And this is why. This is why you feel the way you feel, because of the social influence and the marketing and advertising on debt.
I think this is huge, because if you look at, how you were raised, it's not, if you kind of look at when debt really started being marketed in the 1950s, you're now starting to see 2, 3, maybe even 4 generations of people who believe what the previous generation believed. So, it would have been very easy, and it was easy for me to believe what my parents believed. And I could have then kept believing that and then passed that on to my kids. And so how could all these people before me be wrong? They all did the same exact thing. So right. I think that's what's important, is it's maybe not just how you were raised, but it's how were your parents raised? Were your parents raised by people who also had debt? Because they learned it from who they were raised by, and then they just passed it on to you because they didn't question it.
Absolutely. And that is like the perfect segue into this third one we're going to talk about, which is social influence. And I want to share this quick little article from David Burkus on medium.com. And this kind of relates more to health, but we can kind of use the same ideas that they're sharing here about health as it relates to your finances. So listen to this. It says, the first major study on the breadth of social influence was conducted by Nicholas Christakis and James Fowler. Sorry if I murdered that name, by the way. The duo was examined the data set from the Framingham Heart Study, one of the largest and longest running health studies ever. And when they realized that it covered more than just the heart health of the participants, they were studied for all sorts of medical conditions, and during interviews, they were probed with all sorts of demographic questions, including questions about family members and friends. So they started analyzing the data to see what the effects of the family members and friends was on something fairly easy and objective. So they picked obesity, so being overweight. So according to their results, if a friend of yours becomes obese, you yourself are 45% more likely than chance to gain weight over the next 2 to 4 years. 45%, guys. That's crazy. More surprisingly, however, Christakis and Fowler found that if a friend of your friend becomes obese, so like Ryan was just talking about, your likelihood of gaining weight increases by about 20%. So even your friends' friends have an impact on your health. Even if you don't know that friend of a friend, the effect continues one more person out. If a friend of your friend develops obesity, you still, check this out, 10% more likely than random chance to gain weight as well. That is like, I mean, this is it. Like, the people you surround yourself, social influence, your circle of friends, your family, your coworkers, like the people you hang out with and mingle with, they are going to play a role in how you manage your money. Like, I know that this is related to health, but it is almost the exact same when it comes to your money and how you use it.
My story on here, and I've said it multiple times, we sold a house when we were going through our debt journey, and we moved out of a very nice neighborhood. And I can tell you that is, for us, it was a huge thing. You are surrounded by people who are buying things and buying stuff and have the new car and have the pool in their backyard and they have this and they have that. And there is, I think, just human nature is it sparks something in you to like, hey, maybe we should do that. If they can do, I know what he does for a living. If they can do that, we should be able to do that. So you just start questioning and you end up buying more things. I since we've moved here and gotten out of debt, I mean, I don't have half or even 25% of the things I used to buy. I mean, we would just go to the store and buy stuff because it was just like, that's what we did because other people were doing it. So I think this is just in general. I mean, I've had, the place I work now, I've worked here for a long time, but previous, same thing. You get in working somewhere, you get comfortable, all the people, you tend to start, I remember being like, I'm going to work here for my whole life, until I didn't want to anymore and we moved on. But I think it's just that nature of once you're surrounded by people doing something, it doesn't even have to be money. You're just more likely to kind of become like those people.
Yep.
And our social influence is so much wider now because of social media. So it's not just your core family, your core neighbors, your friend of a friend. It's now like multitudes of friends and people that you're seeing do so much on social media even.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about how much time, and we don't have all those statistics here today, but man, if you just look at statistics of time people spend on social media and watching these things, it's going to play a role. Like I think I shared this story on here. It's not in our notes here today, but I'll bring it up. But my son watches YouTube occasionally. He'll pick up some of these YouTube shows and some of the stuff that they do on these YouTube shows is like some extravagant things. Like, they'll buy, $30,000 car and mess it up, or, they'll just do, silly things. Or I think they bought like a $70,000 pizza on one of the shows. And I'm like, and I kind of tried to explain to him, it's like, dude, this is not real life. Like, I want you to understand, like, this is not what normal people do. This is a show and it's meant to get clicks and subscribers, right? So, and the reason I explained that to him, and I think he knew, but the reason I explained it to him is because you could see this stuff on social media and think it's all legit. It's real. Like, and that can make you feel really inadequate. It can make you feel like your stuff isn't as good. Your life isn't as good. You're not as valued. Amber, that's a great point. I didn't even put that in the notes here today. That was awesome.
Just comes to my mind.
I'm glad you brought it up because I completely missed that one, and it's so true. I have one little quick story. We bought a Blackstone griddle, and we love this thing. We've cooked on this thing and I haven't even talked about this on the show yet, but we're almost 6 months. Actually, we're well over 6 months now. Sorry, of eating at home. We haven't eaten out at all, and we've cooked on the Blackstone almost every single day. And this Blackstone griddle, I've been posting on my personal Facebook page, some of the food and stuff we've been cooking. And I can't tell you how many people, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, how many people I've influenced on buying a Blackstone griddle.
Oh, I'm tempted. I'm like, I keep seeing that food. Yeah, not only are you going to make me go spend money, you're going to make me gain weight because I see all this food you're eating.
Seriously, I just got a message the other day from a couple of friends that are going out to get one because what we were making. But that's the perfect example. Like, your friends' spending habits are going to have influence over yours. So I think what really kind of goes back to this is how you can protect yourself from this social influence thing. We talked about this a lot on the show too. This is why you need to have some small term and short and long term goals. Like, that's why this is so critical for you to have. And you also have to not care what everybody else is doing. And that is a hard thing to switch. How long? I know for me, like, we started this 10 years ago, and seriously, it probably was maybe still 5 years into it, maybe even 6 years into it. Like, when I started this business, because I finally was just like, I wanted to help people. I didn't care what people thought anymore. But it took me a long time not to care what people thought. Like, I felt like I always had to justify, like, I'm driving this old vehicle because this. Now, I don't have to say anything because I just don't really care because I'm living the life that I wanted to live.
Yeah, I think that just takes time. I think for us, I think there's something in you at some point that, at least it was for us. I can't point back to any certain point in time, but I feel the same way. I don't care. I don't really, it doesn't, I used to, and I think that's the important part, in social media. Amber, you brought up social media, and that's everyone's highlight reel. And just like you told your son, it's not real life. I'm here to tell you that for most people, that's not real life. And I was one of those people that posted on social media all my vacations and my house and my cars, and it was all BS. Because I was like, if something would have happened, I would have lost it all. I mean, I was literally thank God it's payday. Oh crap, we hope we make it to payday. I mean, nonstop. That's how it was. But on my pictures, I was all smiles, like we had it all, and I think that people really have to remember that
Yep.
What you scroll through on social media, 78% of those people, 78% are living paycheck to paycheck. So 8 out of 10 of those pictures you're seeing, they can't afford what they're posting. They're just doing what we all did and going into debt to do it.
Yep. And lots of statistics we share all the time on this show. 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck. It's almost 8 out of 10. So remember that. 8 out of 10 friends that you see posting that kind of stuff, they can't afford it. So just be really careful who you're following and what you're buying into. And the other cool thing, though, about this, though, is that it works both ways. It's not just, negative can affect you, but positives can too. Because by me taking charge of our finances and living debt-free, we've given people a lot of hope that they can do it too. We're not talking just friends. We're talking family. We're talking thousands of people now through our business and through this podcast, because it does work both ways. And we are going to be kind of that sounding board for all of you out there to be that breath of fresh air, because there is so much negative information about money and debt and just getting out of it. There's not going to be a lot of people that are going to cheer for you. That's one of the reasons why on this show we spend, 5-10 minutes at the end. We do celebrations because we want you to hear that other people are making progress and getting out of debt. It's important. So it works both ways, positive and negative. So, surrounding yourself with more positive information, getting yourselves into uncomfortable conversations where you can learn more about money, getting yourself around people who are more successful with money, and not necessarily rich people, but just people who are better at handling it. They've got the habits down. They're doing the things that are needed. Those are going to be the things that are going to help you change your life and change your finances.
Yeah, for us, this is one of the big reasons it's one of the big reasons I wanted to help do this podcast. I mean, I think money, for whatever reason, if I told you right now I wanted to lose weight, I'd have 10 people at my door offering to help me. If I told you I want to get out of debt, I think I'd have 10 people run away from me because it's still one of those things people don't talk about. I was ashamed and embarrassed. It took us a long time to get out of debt. I didn't really let anybody know the situation we were in because I just felt like it was off limits. I don't want people to know that. But I think we have to get to the point where it's okay to say you need help, you don't know what you're doing, and surround yourself with those people. It took me 8 years to do it. I think if I would have been more open and surrounded myself with the right people, joined the right program, it would have been faster and a lot more fun to have people around me cheering me on rather than trying to do it all by myself, hiding what we were doing.
Yeah, there's no question that finding that support and accountability in all of this is going to help you kind of defend yourself against these 3 big things that we talked about here today. That is critical. Maybe it's just listening to this show. Maybe it's finding someplace local. Get into our Life Without Payments course. Get into our Facebook group. There's so many different things that you can do. The resources are out there. You just have to dig a little bit, and you can get the help that you need for sure. Hey, imagine a life without payments and debt. I'm telling you, it's possible. Now, I recently launched an incredible free workshop that will walk you through the first steps to reaching a stress-free and debt-free life. Now, the information that we're sharing inside this workshop has helped people save and pay off millions of dollars. And we've had thousands of people now register for this workshop. Now, I was broke at one time too, but by following a simple process, I paid off all of my debts and I now live completely debt-free. And getting out of debt, it's not an easy road. This is hard work. So I know also what works and what doesn't work. And that's why we created this fantastic success path that's removing all of the confusion, and it's helping ordinary people have massive results. And I just want to share our success path with you in this workshop. Now, the goal of the workshop is really simple. We want to help you reduce stress. We want to provide you immediate and clear direction, also give you some really helpful insights, and give you some really cool tips to help you discover some of the first steps, some of the first things that you should work on as you get on the road to financial freedom. So head on over to therealdebtfreedad.com, click on Tools and Courses in the menu, and get free access to this course today.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's
All right. That sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. And guys, outside of these 6, it's daily now. I'm having so much fun because daily we are getting messages. I just had someone post in our Life Without Payments group that they have paid off well over $40,000 since 2018. I mean, and this is happening daily. I mean, this is it's a lot of fun. So to all of you who are out there working hard, congratulations. It's awesome. So we're going to kick it off with Jenny Bodner. She says, I'm able to complete a bedroom remodel starting next week. And check this out. Rather than whipping out the credit card, she is paying cash for all of it. New flooring, paint, bedding, and a few fun accessories, all paid with cash. Congratulations. That is super fun. That's awesome.
Amber Workman says, I'm just shy of 3 weeks away from my wedding day. And for everything, we've spent under $2,500. And every last bit of it was paid in cash.
Yeah, that is incredible. I love that. And way to be different. There's people that they fork a lot of money out for the wedding.
Right.
That can be hard. So good for you. Good for you.
Amanda Bowers, Jordan and I paid cash for an emergency vet visit, and it wasn't out of the emergency fund. It was out of the extra car principal payment we were going to make this month, but we will still have $1,500 to put towards the car.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's where positive cash flow can come in hand and having that budget. Didn't even have to touch the emergency fund. Just move some things around in the budget, made it work, little stress, little bump in the road. That's great. Good for you guys. Lacey Love paid $400 on debt this week. Huge congratulations to you. Awesome.
Chantal Perot, budget set, have over $2,000 not needed for the budget this month. That will go towards savings for Christmas, and put just over $600 into savings for Christmas on top of the $2,000.
Yeah, that's incredible. And think about it. They started a little over like 3.5 years ago now, have paid off well over $150,000. And now they're saying, did you hear what they said? They had an extra $2,000 that they just didn't need this month. They got there from hard work. That wasn't just given to them. They've created this excess amount of money every month. That's awesome. Good for them.
And Mariah Clark got a brand new pair of work boots for Brian off of a Facebook Buy Nothing group. This was a great thing since Brian just had to throw his last pair away, and because they had holes in them, saved us $200.
Yep. And I love this celebration because it's thinking differently. It's thinking outside the box. You don't always have to buy new. You can buy used. In fact, some of the shirts I wear on this podcast are from the Goodwill. You save a lot of good money there. Lots of great celebrations. So congratulations to all of you who are working so hard. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our YouTube show. So please give us a like or leave us some honest feedback here. We would love to connect with you. And if you want the latest from the show, be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe to our channel. And oh, by the way, if you heard that commercial about our Life Without Payments free course, you can head over and find that at therealdebtfreedad.com. Just click on tools and courses, and you'll have access to all of our free tools right there. We'll see you guys on an upcoming show.